Well, now that it's February 2025 and I'm definitely not already behind schedule, let's talk about my best and worst films from last year. 50 films released and watched, and it never feels like enough. Maybe I was just pickier this year. But more realistically, everything has taken a pretty big backseat to some cool life developments. YouTube and its stress-inducing copyright system was pushed to the side. Although there have been some great films, I really struggled to finalize this list, even when rereading my ratings and reviews on Letterboxd. The films moved up and down the rankings a lot. It might be that too much of life got in the way, but I just didn't feel like I really connected with that many films this year. And some let me down quite a bit. Films I thought would be breathtaking were just good, or good enough. I was rarely wowed by a film, or at least compared to previous year's rankings. And maybe that'll make my final rankings somewhat controversial. Perhaps I'm misunderstanding some big hits or perceived stinkers. Why don't you let me know in the comments just how wrong I am, if so. Usual disclaimer that I'm going by UK release dates for these films, and a moment's silence for the ones I missed out on because I was too busy losing at Dead by Daylight. I will watch them. One day. Spoilers are timestamped with no spoilers at all for the best films. Anyway, enough stalling. These are my 5 worst films of 2024. Number 5. Venom, The Last Dance.
Shoot me in the face.
Take your protein pills and put your helmet on.
Oh yeah! This is my jam!
9,
8, 7, 6,
Commencing countdown, engines on.
3, 2,
check ignition.
1.
The seemingly final Venom film follows Eddie Brock and his alien buddy Venom as they are hunted down by both human and alien armed forces. The aliens want to possess a new plot device within Eddie and Venom's shared body that'll probably destroy the world or universe or something. And there's a new big bad whose main purpose is to tell exposition to his already aware minions while sitting in a chair on his home planet, menacingly. I'm pretty sure this film was significantly affected by the 2023 writers' strike, because if not, there is no excuse for such abhorrent writing in a major blockbuster. Or Sony really doesn't care anymore. Probably both. Even my more forgiving friends were shaking their heads and laughing at the terrible dialogue and exposition. Like the villain scientist, whose entire character was thinking about her dead twin brother and taking on his life dreams as her own.
My twin brother, future NASA scientist.
One day. When thunder roars, head indoors.
This is explained 3 times in the film. Why did they approve this script? Or not even try? It's the 3rd film in arguably the most successful Sony Spider-Man spin-off series, and yet next to no effort was given. By anyone. Even Tom Hardy seems tired of the characters, which does not lead to a very gripping nor charming performance from the franchise's lead. Anyway, let's get into spoilers, but honestly, this film barely cares about its own plot, so I don't think you should either. Similar to the random hippie family, a lot of characters feel misplaced and shoehorned in. Like Mrs. Chow's fan-servicey appearance, who appears to give Eddie a hiding spot and then dance with Venom. Even though Eddie and Venom agree they cannot use the full Venom form because their enemies can track them this way, it's apparently worth the risk for this 2-minute dance sequence to justify the film's title. Sometimes Venom 3 leans into so bad it's good territory, like the dance sequence and its obvious goofiness, but ultimately it's just a bad film. And I do think the Venom series deserved a better send-off. Even the biggest Venom fans may struggle to enjoy this final dance. Number 4. The Merry Gentleman.
There's gotta be a way to get people excited about this place again.
Don't you think male strippers are the answer?
Male dance review.
Men taking their clothes off?
It's men taking their shirts off.
Oh, that's a different story then.
Really?
No.
Now, there isn't a high bar for Christmas Netflix films. Similar to Hallmark Christmas movies, they are very by the numbers, full of rom-com tropes, and are an easy marketing win during the holiday season. However, it would be disingenuous of me to omit this film from the list just because my expectations were already low. I watched it about a week before Christmas to get into the holiday spirit, and instead it bored me to tears and barely had much of a Christmas spirit to it. It didn't get me excited for the season or fill me with warm, silly feelings. And ain't that the point of these repetitive holiday films? The Merry Gentleman is about a woman kicked out of her Broadway Christmas dance group that, I guess, performs all year round, who returns to her hometown in a very uncliched move and creates a male stripping group to save her parents' failing bar. I'll give it that it's a fun idea, and that's what attracted me to the film. Aside from the obvious.
Just a few more measurements. His eyes are up there.
But damn, the obvious could not carry this film. The lead character is meant to be an accomplished Broadway dancer, but clearly is not even slightly trained in dance, and the choreography she develops for the men's dancing is nothing special. It's just a bunch of repetitive gyrating, which, believe me, gets boring quickly for this allegedly nightly sold-out show. I'm not even really into dance, and I was disappointed. These scenes are so underwhelming and constantly taking me out of the film. Frankly, the film's choreographer should be ashamed. I'm not even going to bother with a spoiler section because it's a Christmas Netflix rom-com, so you know the deal already. I don't even need to get into details because the plot is so thin and formulaic once it sets off. It's just boring and underwhelming and criminally unsexy. The main characters barely have any chemistry, which leaves me with no desire to see them together or have any tension in the plot. It's also not funny. Like, it forgot about the comedy side of rom-coms entirely and thought we wouldn't notice because abs. If you want to watch a slightly better dumb Christmas Netflix film, I recommend Hot Frosty. It's much more fun because it takes itself much less seriously. Nothing leaves me feeling very merry about these gentlemen. Number 3. Night Swim. A family moves into their new house with a pool, ready for a fresh start after the father's semi-pro baseball career is ended by an injury. But unbeknownst to them, an evil lurks beneath the surface of their idyllic new life. It's the pool. The pool is evil. See, the problem, ignoring all other problems with this film, is if someone feels threatened in a pool, the natural reaction would be to get out of the pool. Now, maybe they are a sim, and their exit has been deleted by a cruel godchild. However, in Night Swim, this is not the case. In fact, there are 3 exits to this pool, covering both ends. Swimming pools are not scary, but this swimming pool is especially not scary. If you want to find out how disappointing Night Swim is, let's dive into spoilers. I will give some credit that this evil pool seems to have some sort of motive or rules. It rewards those that feed it. So it starts healing the dad's injury and wants to drown someone in return. But the dad is so unlikable and the family is so bland that I really didn't care. The dad is rigidly focused on himself and his dead-in-the-water career, and barely seems to care about his kids or wife most of the time. Wyatt Russell doesn't really bring the charm and likability this one-dimensional role needs. Of course, in the end, to redeem his selfishness over ignoring the warning signs around the pool and putting his family in danger over and over again, he sacrifices himself to save his son. How touching. No, it's a pool. If this killer pool has this tragic, scary history, just fill it in instead of ignoring it. The family finally fill it in at the end, but by that point my eyes had rolled so far back into my head, my opinion couldn't sink any lower. Number 2. Trap.
What's with all the police everywhere?
I'm not supposed to tell. You know the butcher? The freaking nut job that goes around chopping people up? The feds heard that he's gonna be here today. So they set up a trap for him. This whole concert? It's a trap.
This one's ranking was a bit of a fight with some friends because they insisted that since I couldn't even finish Trap, it should take the top spot on this list. It's true, I tapped out of Trap 2/3 through because I just hated so much of it and it felt like a waste of time to complete. I googled what happened in the end and do not regret my decision to stop because it was both too predictable and too stupid for me to care. Trap follows a dad and daughter at a concert for M. Night Shyamalan's Nepo baby daughter, here called Lady Raven, where the first act twist reveals this concert is a setup to find and catch the dad in question, a famous serial killer known as the Butcher. As the film goes on, the dad, Cooper, works to evade capture at every ridiculous turn. Like 2021's Old, Shyamalan's film has that same odd, blunt dialogue that dominates his scripts. It doesn't feel natural, and the delivery doesn't help either. It gives me a slightly uncanny valley feel. They don't talk like normal people, and it takes me out of the moment because I'm questioning why sentences were said that way or why someone would act like that. A common problem in most bad films is the excessive exposition or explanation in dialogue, and Trap is no stranger to that.
It's okay, Riley. Let her have it. She really wants it. We can find another one later. Yeah?
Sure, Dad.
Okay.
You guys are a good family, good values and stuff. Trust me, you don't see that. Listen, I'll get more soon. I'll put one for you aside. Just come see me in like 10 minutes, all right?
No. These girls just need to be able to work things out for themselves. You know what I'm saying?
To an extent, I do. But it's delicate. Let's discuss it later.
No, hey! Don't mess with me, Cooper. I'm not someone to be provoked. I have a dark side. You don't want to see it.
This is their day.
I'm gonna talk to your dad for a second. BRB.
I'm actually her uncle, her mother's brother, and she's really great.
The writing is just bad. An example being that at a sold-out concert, audience members seem to spend a lot of time out of their seats instead of watching Lady Raven. I can't blame them, to be honest. Okay, she's not that bad, but it is a Nepo hire and it becomes all the more aggravating as the film moves into its second act, but for that, we'll have to talk spoilers. Salika Shyamalan plays Lady Raven, and I tried my best to ignore the fact that this whole film seemed to be a vehicle to fulfill Shyamalan's daughter's concert-filling dreams. The music wasn't the worst, and the setup was fine, even if the premise itself was ridiculous. But then she gets a starring pivotal role for the second half, and her acting and character is so bad that it was the nail in the coffin for me liking this film. The character is so keen to be a hero that she willingly enters Cooper's home, steals his phone, goes live on social media without telling anyone Cooper's identity, and never once herself calls for the police or security. She even tries to play some weird psychological manipulation on Cooper, where she pretends to be his mother in the hope he will submit to her and not kill her.
Cooper, you listen to me now. Enough of this foolishness. You're gonna sit in your seat, or you're gonna be punished.
Come on. I know what you're doing.
It's just ridiculous. And Salika is nowhere near a good enough actress to pull it off. Josh Hartnett as Cooper tries his best, but even he can't save this mess. A positive I will add begrudgingly is that despite the characters being the usual flat and one-dimensional nothing burgers featured in too many Shyamalan films, I appreciated that Cooper did try to be a decent father to his daughter, and his escape plans never involved ditching her at the venue, and usually involved an element to make her happier where possible. I mean, that was sweet, I guess, and showed he did have some more dimensions to his character than evil serial killer. I think that's what keeps it from being the worst on my list for 2024, because that number 1 spot belongs to Megalopolis. Oh, here we go.
And you think 1 year of medical school entitles you to plow through the riches of my Emersonian mind?
Entitles me?
Yes.
Entitles me?
Yes.
Entitles me?
Yes.
You have no idea about me. You think I am nothing? Just a socialite?
No, not nothing, but I reserve my time for people who can think.
Hyped to be famous director Francis Ford Coppola's magnum opus, literal decades in the making, the star-studded Megalopolis was much anticipated. Coppola poured $120 million of his own money into making this film because other studios wouldn't take the financial risk. And even more on top of that for marketing because studios were still against putting their own money on the line for this. I wonder how he feels now. The film is a mess of a plot, but here's what I can best summarize. Based in an alternative universe modern-day New York, now dubbed New Rome, a famous visionary architect fights the mayor to create a utopia out of New Rome called Megalopolis. The film follows various loosely connected characters in various loosely connected storylines. It's an interesting concept, bringing ancient Rome into modern day, and there are some somewhat cool moments in there, especially in some of the visuals. But the whole film is dragged so far into the dirt by an incredibly pretentious, nonsensical script, terrible characters, and way too much money invested in a loud CGI mess of haphazard ideas flung at the wall. The overall plot is pretty much incoherent. Just a bunch of scenes and characters thrown together and interacting with little meaning or impact. It's both bloated with content and devoid of anything meaningful or engaging. I won't spend too long on this, but we'll need to go into spoilers to really discuss this mess. Adam Driver's central character is a tortured genius artist architect whose vision for Megalopolis is that it will bring the city into a brighter future utopia by allowing creativity to flow freely, and that loving and being loved is key to that as well. Or something, I don't know. It's not very clear. He can also stop time, sometimes, which is how the film opens and ends, but this gift never seems to really matter. I guess it's meant to mean something more, but honestly, everything is such a mess it's not worth reading into. I do think that was Coppola's goal though, to make an incredible artsy film that would change everyone's perspectives and cause film academics to study his creation for years to come. As for that dumb line memed across the internet,
So go back to the club, bear it all, and stalk the kind of people that you enjoy.
Fine.
well, it's just as baffling and out of place in the film. He's mocking his future love interest, who seems very determined to fall in love with him for no reason, despite him being an entirely closed-off and unlikable person drowning in his own ego. For a film trying so hard to be taken seriously, there are so many choices in the film that are just baffling. From seemingly deep philosophical discussions to dumb lines about clubs and boners. The dialogue regularly veers into over-explanation and ends up being a huge slog to watch because Megalopolis thinks itself so much wiser and grander than its audience. You would hope it would then lean into so bad it's good, but nope. It's just boring. I will say Aubrey Plaza was my favourite part of the film, and the only slight relief from all that overwhelming seriousness the film and the rest of the characters pushed. She was clearly having fun, and it showed really positively in her performance. She wasn't taking it as seriously, and it made me wonder if the film would at least be a more enjoyable watch if more actors had taken that approach. Instead, Megalopolis was an utter eye-rolling, relentless drag. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone because there's so little value in this mega money waster. Megalopolis? More like Megaflopolis! Anyway, let's leave that negativity in 2024 and focus on my picks for the top 5 best films of 2024. No spoilers in this section because these are the films I want you to watch. Number 5. My Old Ass.
Can we kiss? No.
What? Can I at least touch my old ass?
Oh my god, you need to be locked up.
A coming-of-age story in which getting high on shrooms on her 18th birthday allows Elliot to meet her 39-year-old self. Through this, young Elliot learns some small life truths and subtle guidance on how to direct her life going forward. But as she takes the advice to heart, she starts to realize maybe her older self isn't being as honest as she seems. Because I don't discuss spoilers in this section of the video, I'll keep my next few lines a bit more cryptic. Basically, while being a very sweet and charming coming-of-age story for the most part, the final act deals with some heavy life experiences very honestly and effectively. It acknowledges that sometimes we need to feel the hurt to appreciate the good, and vice versa, and it's a lesson that both Elliots have to take on. And that's what a lot of the film is about, appreciating the moments, the present, and less focus on what the future will bring. This message really resonated with me, as living in the now, as opposed to always planning and looking to the future, is something I really struggle with. And that means I lose out on appreciating and being present in the moment. For example, in the film, Elliot is about to move to college, so is advised by her older self to really appreciate this time at home with her family, because it gets harder to connect with them later and when she's moved out. It's a familiar experience for people moving out for the first time. And it's just small life lessons like that that are so important and really easy for all of us to miss, because we want to believe there's all the time in the world. It's relatable to not just the characters in the film, but audience members of all ages, to appreciate the now instead of being distracted by the what if, a bit like older Elliot seems to be. Aubrey Plaza is brilliant as older Elliot. She brings her usual aloof charm and comedic talent to the role, and it works perfectly. Despite the difference in appearance, they really feel like two generations of the same person, and credit has to also go to Maisie Stella for bringing young Elliot to life so well. As someone who is over halfway between the ages our two Elliots are in the film, I found so much of it touching and relatable. Like how age doesn't fully correlate to figuring stuff out, how young you still are even when seen as the older, wiser person, how quickly time goes by as you get older. It's not as hard-hitting or out there as some of the other films on this list, nor films whose spot this one took, but for a simple coming-of-age story, I think it deserves a spot in my top 5, because it did its job really well and was overall a fantastic film. But don't just listen to my sentimental old ass. Check it out and decide for yourself. Number 4. Women of the Hour.
Bachelor number 1. This is nice and easy. What are girls for?
What do you mean?
Just what I said. What are girls for?
Geez, you're getting edgy with this one.
Oh, do you want to go back to Immanuel Kant?
No, I can do this.
Good to hear it.
In Anna Kendrick's directorial debut, she uses a harrowing, thrilling, true story to demonstrate the everyday ways women have to navigate society safely and carefully. Women of the Hour follows multiple women over the course of 2 decades who became victims to real-life serial killer Rodney Alcala, also known as the dating game killer. Anna Kendrick stars as the woman opposite him on the dating show, Cheryl, while other instances of his victims are intercut throughout the film. The film itself isn't wholly factual, but based on the true events, a choice that leads to a very gripping and well-paced recreation of this terrifying time. The focus of the film is on the victims, usually introduced in each sequence before Rodney is, so we can get an idea of who they are and feel the mounting tension when Rodney introduces himself. It makes the sequences and the echoes of these real women's lives all the more haunting and sympathetic because we get to know them as people before they become victims. It never feels over the top or patronizing. Kendrick is simply trying to give these women a platform as more than just unfortunate victims, but real people who were just going about their day until they were targeted. We also get a glimpse into how well Rodney played the dating game, both the literal show and in life, demonstrating how easily he could manipulate women's trust and take advantage of social expectations to commit his crimes. Some scenes can be really hard to watch because of how authentically these women act and sound, a credit to Kendrick's directing. It becomes too relatable at times, even decades later in modern day, because the guards and checks these women have to do are still relevant. There are some heartbreaking scenes for sure, and you may come out of this feeling pretty angry at how some women had to act or were let down. It's a moving, thoughtful piece on how women have to protect themselves all the time, physically, emotionally, and even socially, and how letting one's guard down, for even a moment, can be life-altering. For a first-time director's debut, Anna Kendrick's Woman of the Hour leaves a lasting impression. Number 3. Vermines.
Théo, tu te caches, Théo. Tu te fous de ma gueule.
Arachnophobes, turn away now. Skip to this timestamp or turn your screen around because spiders will be shown. A lot. Vermines, or its English title, Infested, focuses on a young man who brings a rare and unknowingly deadly spider for his collection into his apartment building, where it begins to breed at an alarming rate. He, his sister, and friends have to try to escape the lockdown building before they are overcome by the increasing swarm. I went into this film blind, watching it with and at the recommendation of my fellow film buff brother. I didn't expect much, to be honest, but I was quickly hooked. The characters, who initially come off as closed off and quite cold, gradually reveal themselves to be three-dimensional, relatable, and oddly endearing. Even though they're kind of jerks to each other in the beginning, there was a definite charm to their characterizations and performances. They felt like real, complex people. And being invested in the characters always makes for a more enjoyable, intense watch, because you want them to make it out of the unsettling and dangerous situations they face. This is a thriller film after all. The film even got some tears out of me because the characters are actually good, and I cared about them. They are fleshed out and developed over the course of the film, and the acting is brilliant. Even in fleeting moments with characters we barely know, the atmosphere is so immersive that you can't help but feel for them, trapped in their infested and dangerous homes. The spiders themselves were creepy, and even I felt a little spine-tingling at times. There were some brilliant tension-building sequences that amplify the horror of the situation. The setup was very well done, and the fear wasn't just in the creatures themselves, but in how the characters, and the spiders, were trapped and fighting for survival. It's a basic concept, dangerous creatures hunting people in an isolated building, but the care, passion, and attention to detail that went into making this film turned it into something far more than just another monster flick. It was a surprisingly emotional, intense, and uncomfortable experience, and I wasn't expecting to feel this much for a spider-filled horror. So if you're looking for a creepy crawly flick that will make you feel a little bit more than just fear, I would check this one out. Number 2. Alien Romulus.
Young?
Stop playing around, man. Just get up.
I'm not playing around. There's something in the water.
What do you mean there's something in the water?
I don't know. There's just something in the fucking water.
Speaking of tense thrillers with great characters, my second best film of 2024 is Alien Romulus. Moving away from the Prometheus pseudo spin-off series, Alien Romulus gets back to its roots in this requel. The film focuses on Rain and her android adopted brother Andy, who, with 4 friends, are trying to retrieve materials from a derelict space station so they can move to a better planet. However, as to be expected with this series, they run into much more than they bargained for on board the Romulus. I think this film really benefits from the strong emotional bond in Rain and Andy's relationship. Rain is a conflicted character, especially as the events of the film unfold, and a fantastic lead. Andy is a handicapped android who cares deeply for Rain, but his technical issues hold them back from progressing, and Andy is looked down upon by everyone except Rain. David Johnson as Andy is a standout. His character manages to be both unsettling and sympathetic throughout the film. Johnson really brings Andy to life, and I think is owed a lot of credit for the success of the character. The rest of the cast and characters are great too. They aren't developed as much, but with only 2 hours for this tense thriller, the pacing is tight, and each character manages to have their moment to stand out. I do have some moral quandaries against one choice made in the film, specifically to do with casting, but I'd encourage unaware viewers not to look this up ahead of time and to develop your own opinions on it when you see the film. That's all I'll say, but if you know, you know. Ultimately, Alien Romulus is a well-made, gripping, and excellent entry into the Alien series, sweeping a lot of lesser entries aside easily. It doesn't quite meet the level of the original or its first sequel, but is a fantastic thrill ride nonetheless with a lot to offer. Whether you've seen the films prior to this one in the series or not, I'd strongly recommend this universe-expanding requel. And now, special mentions. Blink Twice. Another directorial debut from an actress that is focused on women's experiences post-Me Too. Zoe Kravitz's Blink Twice sees a seemingly reformed tech billionaire invite a fan to his private island for a dream vacation. This heavenly holiday's cracks soon begin to show when things don't appear to be as they seem. Blink Twice can be a hard watch at times as a tense psychological thriller, and has some gripping social commentary on abuses of power, women sticking together, and accountability that will take you for a ride. Challenges. Tennis and love triangles. As someone interested in neither, who would have thought it would all be so fascinating? An incredibly well-written and acted film, Challengers charts the lives of 3 former friends who all meet again at a Challenger tennis event for what could be the biggest moments in their careers and lives. Fantastic performances, cinematography, and storytelling all come together for an intense battle of emotions, jealousy, and tennis. The substance. Being pushed out of her career due to her age, a fading celebrity takes a drug that replicates her cells to a younger, better version of herself in this gory but brilliant psychological horror. Demi Moore acts in a Golden Globe winning turn as the older version of Elizabeth Sparkles, who pushes herself to the extreme to stay relevant and beautiful in a judgmental world. The finale gets very wild. And number 1 of 2024, Poor Things.
Bella.
What? Why I keep it in my mouth if it is revolting?
I've said that before to Gerald. If you catch my drift.
You are wicked.
Duncans can sometimes be salty. I must go punch that baby.
Oh, Poor Things. How do I even begin to describe you? I've been working on and off on a YouTube script to do just that since summer 2024, and yet here's your first mention on my channel. A well-deserved first place. What Megalopolis wanted to be, or thought it would be. Poor Things focuses on Bella, a resurrected young woman with the brain of a newborn who was to grow up quickly in an alternate universe Victorian society. Bella is played by Emma Stone, who won her second Best Actress Oscar for the role, which I believe is completely earned because she is phenomenal. In an adult body, she is a baby, toddler, child, teen, adult, and more. And she encapsulates every stage brilliantly. It doesn't feel like parody. It feels silly sometimes because that's what the director, Yorgos Lanthimos, wants. He finds and enjoys the humour in his strange worlds. The film is meant to be weird and wonderfully wicked. That's his style. And in Poor Things, he creates a massive, surreal but wondrous world for Bella to explore that still has plenty of similarities with our own. The visuals are stunning every step of the way. Like his 2018 film The Favourite, Lanthimos takes so much care in framing a shot and making it more than just a still from a film or backdrop for a scene. It is incredibly riveting to see the world through Bella's eyes, as everything is displayed in childlike simplicity at first, and this is depicted really well. Her simplistic and straightforward worldview puts a mirror up to weird societal conventions. Conventions that are true in our reality as well. The film also focuses on Bella's discovery of her own sexuality and owning that, versus the men that try to trap and use her through this aspect and others. Like I said, I will try to actually release a YouTube video dissecting all my feelings on Poor Things. It's a lot more complex than it sounds, for me at least. But for now, I can say it is definitely my favourite and standout film from 2024. And that was 2024 in films. Was it a year of groundbreaking, view-changing, breathtaking films? Probably not. And it would be wrong to pretend some of the other year's top 5s didn't impact me more. I mean, I had a freaking WTF list at the end of last year's video. Say what you want about 2023 films, but they went hard. And I don't think I can say the same for 2024's portfolio. So, what was your favourite film, or least favourite? Do you agree with my picks and reasons? Let me know in the comments, as I'd love to hear what you think. Hey, Editing Kaylin here. So I'm like a couple of days off finally finishing this video, and in the midst of a conversation with friends guessing what films would make this list, Alex mentioned a film I was horrified to realise was not accounted for in my 50 films watched in 2024. Because I watched 51 films in 2024. And the missing film is one that actually probably would have made it into my top 5. But I don't want to undo the work put into this video so far and delete what has already been recorded and edited. So here's an extra but brief segment to celebrate a forgotten but fantastic film that is definitely one of the big film highlights from 2024. The Wild Robot.
Do you have any information on how to take care of this unit?
They all need to eat, but yours needs to swim and fly.
Oh, fly by fall. He's got to leave this island before winter.
Or, how do I put this delicately? Yeah, that.
Eat, swim, fly by fall. Or,
Patience is the key.
What a surprising, heartfelt, and beautifully animated film this was, about a helper robot that crash lands on an island of wild animals. The film follows this robot's attempts to bond and connect with the animals, and honestly, I don't even want to say more because I had no idea what to expect from this film, and it continually surprised me and touched my heart. The Wild Robot is beautifully written, gorgeously drawn, and wonderfully acted by its surprisingly notable voice cast: Lupita Nyong'o, Pedro Pascal, Kit Connor, Stephanie Sue. I strongly recommend watching this film. It's suitable for all ages, and it's hilarious and heartbreaking in sometimes equal measure. It's just an amazing film about finding family when you least expect it, and an absolute joy to experience.